Kong Dae-ho stepped off the transport ship and looked up at the biggest building he had ever seen. The Galactic Military Academy stretched into the artificial sky of Station Kepler-7, its silver walls shining with lights from 1,000 different worlds. He carried one small bag with everything he owned. Most other students had floating boxes full of expensive gear. Another human, someone whispered behind him. From the Deathworld, Dae-ho did not turn around. He had heard these words many times during his long journey from Earth. The other species in the galaxy called his home planet a Class 12 Deathworld. They said it was too dangerous for smart life to grow there. They were wrong, but Dae-ho had learned not to argue. He joined the line of new students waiting to enter the academy. To his left stood a crystalline being, her body made of living blue crystal that caught the light. She was beautiful and strange. To his right, a massive warrior stood like a walking mountain, his natural armor plates clicking softly as he breathed. "You are the human," the crystalline said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "I am Nixandra. I studied your species before coming here." "What did you learn?" Dae-ho asked. "That your people are very young. Your civilization is only a few thousand years old. Most of us have existed for millions of years." She tilted her crystal head. "Yet here you are." Dae-ho nodded. "Here I am." The line moved forward. Soon they were inside the Academy's Great Hall. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy filled the massive space. Some flew with wings of light. Others floated in bubbles of strange gas. A few looked almost human, but with silver skin or extra arms. At the front of the hall, a tall figure in golden robes waited. This was Commander Velthar of the Zenithian Empire. Dae-ho had read about his species during the trip here. The Zen were considered the most perfect beings in the galaxy. They lived for thousands of years. Their minds could do things that seemed like magic. They had never lost a war. "Welcome, cadets," Commander Velthar said. His voice reached every corner of the hall without speakers. "You represent the finest your species can offer. Here, you will learn to protect the galaxy from threats beyond your current understanding." His silver eyes moved across the crowd and stopped on Dae-ho. "Some of you come from advanced civilizations that have mastered space and time. Others, ... double quotes. His gaze stayed fixed on the human. Others come from worlds where survival itself is an achievement. Whispers filled the hall. Many eyes turned to look at Dae-ho. He felt heat rise in his cheeks, but kept his face calm. "The human appears confused," Commander Velthar continued. "Perhaps he does not understand your species has been in space for less than 200 years. The youngest civilization here before you had already built starships when your ancestors were hitting rocks with sticks." Some students laughed. The sound echoed off the high ceiling. "Tell me, human," the commander said. "What makes you think you belong here, among your betters?" The hall went quiet. Dae-ho felt hundreds of eyes watching him. His heart beat faster, but his voice stayed steady. "I passed the same tests as everyone else, sir." "Tests designed for primitive minds," Velthar replied. "Physical endurance, basic problem solving, simple pattern recognition. A clever animal might pass such tests." More laughter from the crowd. Dae-ho's hands formed fists at his sides, but he kept them there. However, the commander continued, "The Academy's rules are clear. All who pass the entrance requirements will be given a chance to prove themselves. Even Deathworld primitives." He raised one perfect hand. "In 3 days, we begin the trial of worlds. 5 tests that will show us who truly deserves to be here. Each test will eliminate the weakest among you. By the end, only the worthy will remain." The commander's eyes found Dae-ho again. "I predict our human friend will be among the first to fail. Deathworld species may survive in harsh conditions, but they lack the intelligence and refinement needed for advanced military science." When the speech ended, students began to leave the hall in groups. Many gave Dae-ho curious looks as they passed. Some seemed friendly. Others looked at him like he was an interesting but harmless animal. "Do not listen to him," Nixandra said, as they walked toward the dormitory levels. "The Zenithians think they are perfect, but perfection can be a weakness. How? Daiho asked. Perfect things break easily when they face something new. They reached the dormitory section. Each student had their own small room with a bed, desk, and wall screen. Daiho's room was between Nixandra and a Titanid named Rithkra. Across the hall lived 3 Zenithian cadets who had already made it clear they thought he should not be there. That evening, Daiho sat at his desk reading about the other species at the academy. The Zenithians were not just proud, they had good reasons to be. They had built an empire that lasted 50,000 years. Their technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. Their bodies were perfect, their minds incredibly powerful. The wall screen chimed. A message appeared from someone called Master Sergeant Park Jinwoo. The name was Korean, like his own. Meet me in training room 7 at 0600 hours. We need to talk. The next morning, Daiho found training room 7 in the academy's lower levels. A man in his 50s waited inside. He had the same black hair and brown eyes as Daiho, and scars on his hands that spoke of hard fighting. You're the kid from Seoul, Master Sergeant Park said. It was not a question. Yes sir, I'm from Busan, been here 15 years, training alien cadets, how to fight. Park walked in a circle around Daiho. You know what I learned in all that time? No sir, every species here is stronger than us, faster than us, smarter than us. They live longer, have better technology, and most of them can do things with their minds that we can barely imagine. Park stopped in front of him. You know what else I learned, sir? None of that matters when the shooting starts. Park smiled for the first time. The Zenithians think they're evolution's masterpiece. Maybe they're right. But evolution doesn't always pick the winners in a real fight. What do you mean, sir? Kid, you're from Earth. That makes you something special, even if these aliens don't know it yet. Park moved to a weapons rack and picked up a simple metal rod. Every other species here evolved on worlds that were kind to them. Good weather, plenty of food, not many predators. Their home planets were like gardens. He tossed the rod to Daiho, who caught it easily. Earth tried to kill your ancestors every single day for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, droughts, diseases, predators with teeth like knives. Park picked up another rod. The aliens think that makes you primitive. I think it makes you something they can't understand. What unbreakable? Park raised his rod. Show me what a Deathworld boy can do. They fought for an hour. Park was older, but he had experience and training. Still, every time he knocked Daiho down, the young man got back up. Every time Park hit him, Daiho adapted and got better. Good, Park said finally. The trials start tomorrow. Remember something when you're out there. What's that, sir? They think survival is about being perfect. You know better. Park put his hand on Daiho's shoulder. Survival is about refusing to quit. As Daiho walked back to his room, he thought about Commander Velthar's words. The Zenithian was right about many things. Humans were young and primitive compared to the other species. Their technology was basic. Their lifespans were short. But Master Sergeant Park was right to Earth, had taught humans something the other species had never learned. How to keep fighting when everything seemed hopeless. How to find a way when there was no way. How to survive when survival should be impossible. Tomorrow, the trials would begin. Daiho would face beings with powers beyond his imagination. They would be faster, stronger, and smarter than him. He smiled as he entered his room. They had no idea what they were up against. The transport ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Tartarus Tree through the small window. Daiho watched the moon's surface grow larger. It looked like a nightmare made real. Red rocks stretched as far as he could see. Steam rose from cracks in the ground. Lightning flashed through purple clouds that covered half the sky. First trial begins now, announced the ship's computer. Survival exercise on Tartarus 3 duration, 72 hours. Objective, reach the pickup point, alive. Around him, other cadets checked their equipment one last time. The Zenithians wore suits that shimmered with energy shields. Their helmets had displays that showed everything about the environment. The Crystalline beings had grown special armor over their bodies. Even the tough Titaneds carried breathing equipment and temperature controls. Daiho looked at his own gear. A simple breathing mask that would let him survive in the toxic air. A basic suit that would protect him from acid rain. A small pack with water and emergency food. A knife, a medical kit, nothing else. Human, called one of the Zenithian cadets. His name was Kethfa, and he had made it clear he thought humans were stupid. Where is your environmental suit? Your scanning equipment? Your energy weapons? I don't have any, Daiho replied. Kethfa laughed. You will die in the first hour. The ship landed with a hard bump. The doors opened, and immediately the smell hit them. Sulfur and burning metal filled the air. The temperature was hot enough to cook meat, but not hot enough to kill them instantly. Yet, good luck, cadets, said the ship's pilot. Try not to die. One by one, they stepped out onto the surface of Tartarus 3. The ground was covered with sharp rocks that could cut through normal boots. Acid rain began to fall from the purple clouds. In the distance, something howled with a sound like breaking glass. Most cadets immediately activated their protective equipment. Energy shields glowed around the Zenithians. The crystallines changed color to match their surroundings. The Titaneds sealed their armor completely. Daiho pulled his breathing mask over his face and started walking toward the mountains. According to the map they had been given, the pickup point was on the other side of the worst terrain on the moon. Within an hour, problems began. The acid rain was stronger than expected. It ate through the Zenithians' energy shields in minutes. Their perfect suits began to smoke and spark. One cadet screamed as acid touched his skin. This is impossible, Kethfa said, his voice shaking. The briefing said the acid was only mildly corrosive. Briefings can be wrong, Daiho said. He had taken off his outer jacket and wrapped it around his head and shoulders. The acid was burning holes in it, but it kept the worst drops off his skin. How are you not screaming? Asked Nixandra. Her crystal body was changing colors rapidly. A sign of stress. It hurts, Daiho admitted. But I've been hurt before. By the second day, half the cadets were in serious trouble. The Zenithians' advanced equipment kept breaking down. Their suits were not designed for conditions this harsh. Their scanning devices gave wrong information about safe paths. Their food synthesizers produced meals that made them sick. The crystallines were suffering too. Their bodies were perfect for their home world, but here they moved slowly, and their thinking became confused. The extreme conditions made it hard for them to process information. Even the mighty Titaneds struggled. Their natural armor protected them from physical damage, but they needed special breathing equipment to survive. When dust storms damaged their air filters, they began to weaken. Daiho kept walking. His simple equipment worked exactly as expected. When his water ran low, he found places where clean water collected in rock pools. When his food was gone, he caught small creatures that lived in the caves. They tasted terrible, but they were safe to eat. On the third day, a massive storm hit. Lightning struck the ground every few seconds. The wind was strong enough to throw rocks through the air like bullets. Most cadets found shelter and waited for it to pass. Daiho kept moving. He had grown up in Seoul, where summer storms could flood the streets in minutes. This was worse, but not by as much as the other cadets thought. He wrapped his remaining clothes around his body and pushed forward, step by step. That evening, he found Kethfa sitting under a rock ledge. The Zenithian's beautiful suit was torn and burned. His helmet was cracked. He was shivering despite the heat. Human Kethfa said weakly, "My equipment is failing. I cannot continue." Daiho stopped and looked at him. The Zenithian had insulted him and predicted his death. It would be easy to walk away. Instead, Daiho sat down next to him. "Let me see your suit," he said. "You cannot repair Zenithian technology with primitive tools." "Maybe not, but I can try." For the next hour, Daiho worked on the suit. He could not fix the advanced systems, but he could seal the worst holes with materials from his medical kit. He gave Kethfa half of his remaining water and some of the creatures he had caught. "Why are you helping me?" Kethfa asked. "Because you need help." But I said you would die. I called your species primitive. Daiho shrugged. People say lots of things when they're scared or angry. That doesn't mean I should let you die. They traveled together for the rest of the trial. Kethver learned to move without depending on his suit's systems. Daiho showed him how to find safe water and edible food. When the Zenithian's perfect body began to fail in the harsh conditions, the human helped him keep going. Dr. Morden, a Zenithian scientist, watched everything through hidden cameras placed around the moon. He had volunteered to monitor the trial. Because he was curious about the human, what he saw made no sense. The human should have been the first to die. His species was young and primitive. His equipment was basic. His body was smaller and weaker than most other cadets. Instead, he was the only one who seemed comfortable on this nightmare world. While others struggled with equipment failures and environmental stress, the human adapted. Before he found food, others saw only poison. He found shelter where others saw only danger. He found ways to keep going when others wanted to give up. Dr. Morden began reviewing everything the galaxy knew about Earth. What he found made his blood cold. Earth was not just a difficult world. It was a death trap that had been trying to kill everything on it for billions of years. Ice ages that lasted millions of years. Volcanoes that blocked out the sun. Diseases that killed 9 out of every 10 creatures. Predators with claws and teeth designed for murder. And somehow, life on Earth had not just survived, it had thrived. It had grown stronger with each disaster. It had learned not just to live, but to fight back against the world that hated it. The humans were not primitive survivors. They were the graduates of the galaxy's most brutal military academy. 4 billion years of Earth's cruelty had shaped them into something no other species could understand. On the final morning, Daiho and Kethver reached the pickup point. They were not the first to arrive. A few cadets with the best equipment had made it earlier, but they were among the only ones who arrived healthy and alert. As they waited for the transport ship, Kethver looked at his human companion. I owe you my life, he said quietly. You owe me nothing, Daiho replied. We're both cadets here. We should help each other. My people will not understand this. Xanathians do not show weakness. We do not accept help from lesser species. Then, maybe, Daiho said gently, your people have something to learn. When the ship arrived, 37 of the original 50 cadets climbed aboard. 13 had been rescued early when their equipment failed completely. 3 had quit and asked to be taken home. Commander Velther reviewed the results with growing anger. The human had not only survived, he had excelled. Worse, he had helped others survive too. This was not how the trial was supposed to work. Interesting, Dr. Morden said as he joined the commander in the observation room. The human's performance was ... unexpected. A lucky result, Velther replied coldly. Primitive instincts served him well on a primitive world. The next trials will test intelligence and skill, not animal survival. Dr. Morden nodded, but he was not convinced. He had seen the recordings. The human had not acted on instinct alone. He had analyzed problems, made plans, and executed them. With calm precision. Even more disturbing, he had done it all while carrying the extra burden of helping others. Commander Dr. Morden said carefully, perhaps we should reconsider our assumptions about Deathworld species. There is nothing to reconsider, Velther snapped. One trial proves nothing. The human will fail when faced with challenges that require true intelligence. But as Dr. Morden watched Daiho through the ship's cameras, he saw something that worried him. The human was not celebrating his success or resting from his ordeal. He was quietly helping treat other cadets' injuries and sharing his remaining supplies with those who had lost everything. This was not the behavior of a primitive animal. This was something else entirely. Something that might be far more dangerous than any of them realized. 2 weeks after the Tartarus 3 trial, the Academy buzzed with whispers about the human cadet. Daiho tried to ignore the stares as he walked through the halls. Some aliens looked at him with new respect. Others seemed angry or confused. A few appeared frightened. The second trial had been even more shocking than the first. In hand-to-hand combat, Daiho had defeated a Titanid warrior twice his size. The massive alien's natural armor meant nothing when the human found weak spots that no one else had noticed. When the Titanid fell, unconscious, the arena had gone completely silent. The third trial tested tactical thinking. Cadets were given broken starships and told to plan battles against superior forces. Most aliens used standard strategies taught for thousands of years. Daiho did something different. He studied the enemy's patterns, then did the exact opposite of what they expected. His plans looked crazy, but they worked. Now, as Daiho sat in the Academy's library studying for the next trial, Nixandra found him. "You need to be careful," she said, her crystal body flickering with worried colors. "The Zenithians are talking about you." "What are they saying?" Daiho asked. "That you are making them look weak. That their reputation is being damaged by a primitive." She leaned closer. "Kethfa has been defending you, but even he cannot stop what is coming." "What do you mean?" Before Nixandra could answer, the library's main screen activated. Commander Velthar's perfect face appeared, larger than life. "Attention all cadets," he announced. "Report to the Grand Arena immediately for a special assembly." The Grand Arena was the largest space in the Academy. It could hold 10,000 beings, and today it was packed. Cadets filled the lower levels. Instructors and senior officers sat in the middle sections. At the top, behind protective barriers, representatives from every major species in the galaxy watched through holo-screens. Daiho found himself sitting between Nixandra and Kim Minho. His human roommate, who had arrived just days before, Minho, was an engineering student, quiet and nervous about being at the Academy. "What is this about?" Minho whispered. "I don't know," Daiho replied. But he had a bad feeling. Commander Velthar walked to the center of the arena floor. Behind him stood a group of the oldest and most respected Zenithians in the galaxy. Their silver robes marked them as members of the High Council. "For 50,000 years," Velthar began, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena, "the Zenithian Empire has represented the peak of galactic evolution. We have led the galaxy to peace and prosperity. We have protected lesser species from threats they could not understand. We have never been defeated in battle." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was all true, and everyone knew it. "Today, that perfect record is being questioned," Velthar continued. "A cadet from a primitive world has achieved unexpected success in our trials. Some beings are beginning to whisper that evolution's masterpiece might not be as perfect as we claimed." The murmurs grew louder. Many eyes turned to look at Daiho. "This cannot be allowed to continue," Velthar declared. "The stability of galactic civilization depends on clear leadership. If lesser species begin to think they are equal to their betters, chaos will follow." An ancient Zenithian stepped forward. This was Prime Scholar Vexathun, the oldest living member of their species. His silver hair was white with age, and his eyes held the wisdom of 5,000 years. "Therefore," Vexthun announced, "I invoke the right of challenge, as written in the Academy's founding laws. Commander Velthar of the Zenithian Empire formally challenges Cadet Kong Daiho of Earth to single combat." The arena exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in a dozen languages. Some sounded excited. Others seemed shocked or frightened. Daiho felt the blood drain from his face. A formal challenge was serious business. If he refused, humans would be banned from the Academy forever. If he accepted and lost, the same thing would happen. Either way, his people's future in the galaxy was at stake. "The terms are these," Vexthun continued when the noise died down. "3 trials will test every aspect of military excellence. Mental combat, to test intelligence and strategy. Technological mastery, to test adaptability with advanced equipment. Physical combat, to test warrior skill and endurance." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "If the human wins, his species will be granted full membership in the Galactic Defense Council, with all rights and privileges. If Commander Velthar wins, as we expect, Humans will be banned from all military academies and restricted to their home system. Admiral Yoon Honul stood up in the officers section. She was the highest-ranking human in the galaxy, and one of only 3 human members of the Academy's board. "This challenge is unfair," she protested. "Cadet Kong is a student. Commander Velthar is a veteran officer with centuries of experience. The challenge is legal," Prime Scholar Vextun replied coldly. "The human may decline, of course, but the Academy's laws are clear about the consequences." All eyes turned to Daeho. The arena fell silent. 10,000 beings waited for his answer. Daeho stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, but his voice was steady. "I accept the challenge." The crowd erupted again. This time the noise was deafening. In his private office, Dr. Morden worked frantically at his computer. Ever since the Tartarist 3 trial, he had been researching human history. What he found terrified him more each day. The humans called their home world Earth, but the galactic database had another name for it, Hellworld Prime. It was listed as the most dangerous inhabited planet ever. Discovered, the survival rate for galactic species visiting Earth was 0%. But that was not the worst part. Dr. Morden had found ancient records, millions of years old, that mentioned worlds like Earth. They called them forge worlds, planets. So deadly that they created life forms beyond normal evolution. The records said that forge world species were rare, appearing only once every few million years. When they did appear, they changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "Computer," Dr. Morden said, "show me the last known appearance of a forge world species." The answer made his blood freeze. 65 million years ago. Species. Designation, unknown. Homeworld, destroyed by asteroid impact. All records of the species have been lost. Dr. Morden realized he was looking at something that should not exist. The humans were survivors of a world that had killed every previous attempt at intelligent life. They were the first forge world species to reach the stars in galactic history, and Commander Velthar was about to fight one in single combat. Meanwhile, in the Academy's training rooms, Master Sergeant Park Jinwoo found Daeho hitting a practice dummy with his bare hands. The young man's knuckles were bleeding, but he did not stop. "You accepted the challenge," Park said. "It was not a question. I had to. If I refused, no other human would ever get the chance to prove themselves." Park nodded. "Smart. Also stupid. Velthor is everything the Zenithians claim to be. Perfect body, perfect mind, perfect training. He has never lost a fight." "Then why do you look pleased?" Daeho asked. Park smiled. "Because he has never fought a human before. They trained for hours." Park showed Daeho weaknesses in Zenithian fighting styles that no one else knew existed. He explained how their perfect techniques became predictable. He taught the young man to use his smaller size and greater endurance as weapons. "Remember," Park said, as they finished, "they think perfection makes them strong. You know better. What makes us strong?" Daeho asked. "The willingness to get back up when everyone thinks we should stay down." News of the challenge spread across the galaxy in hours. On Earth, billions of humans watched the news reports with growing fear and pride. Their representative was about to face the greatest warrior in galactic history, on Zenith Prime. The Zenithian homeworld, citizens celebrated. Finally, the primitive humans would be put in their place. Commander Velthar would prove once and for all that evolution had limits, and lesser species could never rise above them. In betting halls across 1,000 worlds, the odds were posted. Commander Velthar was favored by 10,000 to 1. Only humans placed bets on their champion, and most galactic citizens thought they were throwing their money away. But in the deepest archives of the oldest civilizations, a few ancient beings read the news with growing worry. They remembered stories their ancestors had told them, legends about worlds that forged unbreakable warriors. They remembered warnings about species that thrived on adversity. One elderly scholar on the neutral world of Sanctuary sent a message to the academies. "Administration, cancel this challenge. You do not understand what you are dealing with." The message was ignored. After all, What could a primitive human do against perfection itself? In 3 days, they would find out. As the Academy prepared for the most watched event in galactic history, Daiho sat in his room and thought about home. He thought about the storms that had taught him to endure, the earthquakes that had taught him to adapt, the harsh winters that had taught him never to give up. Commander Velthar was perfect, and perfection was a powerful thing, but Daiho was human. And that was something else entirely. The galaxy was about to learn the difference. The grand arena had been transformed for the challenge. 50,000 beings filled every seat, while billions more watched through holoscreens across the galaxy. The betting odds still favored Commander Velthar by 10,000 to 1. Only humans continued to place bets on their champion. Daiho walked onto the arena floor wearing simple academy training clothes. Across from him, Commander Velthar appeared in ceremonial Zenithian armor that sparkled with embedded technology. The armor alone was worth more than most planets. Between them stood the Arbiter, an ancient AI that had overseen formal challenges. For thousands of years, its voice echoed through the arena without emotion. The challenge will proceed in 3 phases, the Arbiter announced. Mental combat, technological mastery, and physical confrontation. Victory in 2 of 3 phases determines the winner. Ambassador Tokbala, representing the neutral species, stepped forward. The stakes are clear. If Commander Velthar wins, humanity is banned from all military academies and restricted to their home system. If Cadet Kong wins, humanity gains full membership in the Galactic Defense Council. In the human section, Admiral Yoon Hanol watched with clenched fists. Beside her sat Sergeant Choi Vugyin, who had trained human special forces for 20 years. Neither looked confident. Phase 1 begins now, the Arbiter declared. Mental combat. A transparent cube descended from the ceiling, large enough to hold both fighters. Inside the cube, holographic displays showed a 3-dimensional battlefield with thousands of moving pieces. Each competitor will command one side of a simulated fleet battle, the Arbiter explained. Victory goes to whoever destroys the enemy or completes the primary objective first. Velthar stepped into the cube with smooth confidence. His silver eyes immediately began analyzing the battlefield. His enhanced brain processed information faster than any computer. Within seconds, he had calculated the optimal strategy. Daiho entered more slowly. Studying the display with quiet concentration, the battlefield showed 2 fleets facing each other across an asteroid field. His ships were outnumbered to 2. 1. Begin, the Arbiter commanded. Velthar's fleet moved with perfect precision. His ships formed elegant formations that maximized their firepower while minimizing their weaknesses. Every movement was calculated. Every decision was optimal. His strategy was flawless. Daiho's fleet moved differently. His ships broke into small groups and scattered through the asteroid field. To most observers, it looked like chaos. The formations made no sense according to standard military doctrine. The human has no idea what he is doing, commented one Zenithian observer. Within minutes, Velthar's superior tactics began to show results. His organized fleet started destroying Daiho's scattered ships one by one. The holographic displays showed the human fleet taking heavy losses. But something strange was happening. Every time Velthar's ships moved to attack one group of human vessels, other groups appeared behind them. The scattered formation that looked like chaos was actually a trap. Velthar frowned. His perfect calculations had not predicted this. He adjusted his strategy, pulling his fleet back into a defensive formation. But the human ships kept coming from unexpected directions, like water flowing around a stone. Impossible, Velthar muttered. His enhanced mind ran through thousands of possible strategies, but each one was countered before he could implement it. The human was not following any known tactical doctrine. He was making it up as he went. Dr. Morden watched from the observation deck, his face pale with understanding. He is not trying to win according to our rules, he whispered to himself. He is changing the rules entirely. The battle continued for 30 minutes. Velthar's fleet was superior in every measurable way. but Daeho's unpredictable tactics slowly wore it down. When the Zenithian tried to predict the human's next move, Daeho did something completely different. Finally, a group of human ships slipped through Velthar's defenses and destroyed his command vessel. The holographic display flashed, "Human victory, Phase 1. The arena fell silent. No one had expected this result. Phase 2 begins now, the Arbiter announced. Technological mastery. The cube reconfigured itself into a workshop filled with advanced equipment from a dozen different species. Broken machines, damaged weapons, and disabled starship components covered every surface. Each competitor must repair and improve as many devices as possible, the Arbiter explained. Functionality and innovation will be judged. Time limit, 1 hour. Velthar moved to the most advanced Zenithian technology. His perfect hands began working with inhuman speed and precision. He understood every circuit, every power flow, every quantum interaction. Within minutes, he had repaired devices that most beings could not even identify. Daeho started with simpler human equipment, a damaged rifle, a broken communicator, a malfunctioning scanner. His hands moved more slowly than Velthar's, but he moved with steady purpose. As the hour progressed, both competitors expanded their work. Velthar repaired increasingly complex devices, each one a masterpiece of technological perfection. His enhanced brain allowed him to understand alien technology as if he had designed it himself. But Daeho was doing something different again. Instead of just repairing devices, he was combining them. A titanid power cell connected to a crystalline processor, a human targeting system linked to Zenithian weapons, parts that were never meant to work together, somehow functioning in harmony. The human is creating hybrid technology, Dr. Morden observed with growing amazement. He is solving problems we never knew existed. With 10 minutes remaining, Vel had repaired 47 devices to perfect working condition. Each one functioned exactly as its original designers intended. Daeho had only repaired 23 devices, but he had modified all of them. A scanner that could detect 10 different types of energy. A weapon that could fire multiple types of projectiles. A communicator that could translate between species in real time. When time ended, the Arbiter spent several minutes analyzing the results. Commander Velthar has achieved perfect restoration of 47 devices, it announced. Cadet Kong has successfully modified 23 devices with significant functional improvements. The decision is Phase 2 goes to Cadet Kong for innovation and practical improvement. The crowd erupted. The impossible was happening. The human was winning. Velthar stared at his perfect repairs, then at Daeho's strange hybrid devices. His enhanced mind tried to understand how innovation could be valued over perfection. It made no sense according to Zenithian logic. Phase 3 begins now, the Arbiter declared. Physical combat. The cube transformed into a simple fighting arena. No weapons, no armor, no technology. Just two beings facing each other in hand-to-hand combat. Velthar removed his ceremonial armor, revealing a body that was evolution's masterpiece. Every muscle was perfectly developed. Every bone was exactly the right density. Every nerve was enhanced for speed and precision. He had trained in combat for over 300 years. Daeho stood in his simple training clothes. He looked small and fragile compared to the Zenithian. His human body showed the scars of training and life on a harsh world. "You have surprised me," human Velthar admitted. "Your primitive tactics somehow overcame superior strategy and technology. But physical combat is different. Here, biology determines the winner. And my biology is perfect." "Maybe," Daeho replied, quietly, "but perfect things break when they meet something they don't understand." "Begin," the Arbiter commanded. Velthar moved with liquid grace, his enhanced body flowing like water. His first strike was a perfect combination of speed, power, and precision. It should have ended the fight immediately. Daeho was not where the strike landed. He had moved at the last second, not faster than Velthar, but in a direction the Zenithian had not predicted. His counterattack was crude compared to Velthar's perfection, but it connected with solid impact. The fight continued. Velthor's movements were beautiful to watch, each technique flawless and devastating. But Daiho kept finding ways to avoid the worst damage while landing his own attacks. The human's form is terrible, observed a crystalline combat expert. But he refuses to fall down. Velthor began to breathe harder. His perfect body was not used to prolonged combat. Xanathian battles were usually decided quickly by superior technique and power. Daiho was breathing hard too, but he showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, he seemed to be getting stronger as the fight continued. His movements became more confident, his attacks more precise. How? Velthor gasped as another of his perfect strikes missed its target. Your technique is primitive. Your body is inferior. You should have fallen minutes ago. You're right, Daiho admitted, dodging another attack. But you made one mistake. What mistake? Daiho smiled, through bloody lips. You assumed that perfect was the same as unbeatable. The fight entered its 20th minute. Velthor's perfect conditioning was reaching its limits. His enhanced body had been designed for maximum efficiency, not endless endurance. His strikes became slightly slower, his defense slightly less precise. Daiho kept coming. Every time Velthor knocked him down, he got back up. Every time the Xanathian landed a devastating blow, the human absorbed it and continued fighting. In the observation deck, Prime Scholar Vexavoon watched with growing horror. This should not be possible, he whispered. Perfection cannot be defeated by persistence. Dr. Morden heard him and replied grimly, unless persistence is its own form of perfection. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the impossible continued to unfold. The greatest warrior in galactic history was fighting for his life against a young human who refused to admit defeat, and slowly, inevitably, began to lose. By the 30th minute of combat, something impossible was happening in the grand arena. Commander Velthor, the greatest warrior in galactic history, was losing to a human cadet. Velthor's perfect technique remained flawless, but his enhanced body was failing him. His strikes came slower now. His breathing was heavy and ragged. Sweat covered his silver skin despite the arena's cool temperature. Daiho looked worse. His face was bruised and bloody. His simple training clothes were torn, but his brown eyes still burned with determination, and his hands remained steady. Impossible, Velthor gasped as he threw another perfect punch. Daiho dodged and countered with a clumsy but effective blow to the Xanathian's ribs. You should be unconscious. You should be dead. Should be, Daiho agreed, spitting blood. But I'm not. In the observation deck, Dr. Morden explained quietly to those around him what they were witnessing. The Xanathian body is designed for maximum efficiency. Every system is optimized for peak performance. But optimization has limits. What do you mean? Asked Ambassador Tom. A perfect engine runs at exactly the right temperature, uses exactly the right fuel, operates under exactly the right conditions. Change any of those factors, and it stops working. Dr. Morden pointed at the fighting arena. The human body is different. It was designed by a world that never provided the right conditions for anything. Below them, Velthor attempted a complex spinning kick that should have ended the fight. His form was perfect, his power devastating. But Daiho somehow rolled under it and swept the Xanathian's legs. Velthor crashed to the ground for the first time in 300 years of combat. The arena fell completely silent. 50,000 beings held their breath. Velthor rose slowly, his silver eyes wide, with something he had never felt before. Doubt, how? He whispered. How can you continue? Your species is inferior. Your body is primitive. Your technique is worthless. Daiho wiped blood from his mouth and smiled. You want to know the difference between us? Tell me. You evolved in paradise, Daiho said, raising his fists again. Perfect climate, perfect food, perfect safety. Your ancestors never had to fight for survival because they never had to survive anything worse than a mild inconvenience. Velthor struck again, a flawless combination that would have killed most beings. Daiho absorbed the blows and kept talking. My ancestors evolved in hell. Ice ages that lasted millions of years. Volcanoes that turned day into night. Earthquakes that split continents. Diseases that killed 9 out of every 10 creatures. Predators with claws like swords and teeth like daggers. Another exchange. Velthor's perfect strikes versus Deho's stubborn refusal to fall. Every day for 4 billion years, Earth tried to kill everything on it. Most species died. The ones that survived got stronger, and stronger, and stronger. Velthor was breathing in short gasps now. His perfect conditioning was failing. What? What is your point? The point, Deho said, dodging another weakening attack, is that you think perfection makes you strong. But perfection is just another word for fragile. You break when conditions aren't perfect. And we learned something your perfect evolution never taught you. Deho's next punch connected solidly with Velthor's jaw. We learned that getting back up is more important than never falling down. The fight continued, but everyone in the arena could see how it would end. Velthor's perfect body was reaching its absolute limits. His enhanced systems were shutting down one by one. His flawless technique was becoming sloppy as exhaustion set in. Deho just kept fighting. Every time Velthor knocked him down, he stood up. Every time the Zenithian hurt him, he ignored the pain and continued. His technique never improved, but his determination never wavered. I don't understand, Velthor said, staggering as his legs began to give out. How can you keep going? Any reasonable being would have surrendered by now. That's the problem, Deho replied gently. You think survival is reasonable. Earth taught us that survival doesn't care about reason. It only cares about who refuses to quit. In the human section, Admiral Yoon Hanul had tears in her eyes. That's our boy, she whispered. That's what it means to be human. Master Sergeant Park Jinwoo nodded grimly. Kid's not just fighting for himself anymore. He's fighting for every human who ever got back up when the world knocked them down. The end came suddenly. Velthor threw one final desperate attack with all his remaining strength. It was perfectly executed. A masterpiece of martial arts that should have been unstoppable. Deho didn't try to dodge or block. Instead, he stepped forward, accepting the blow to land one of his own. Both fighters connected simultaneously. Velthor's strike hit Deho in the chest with enough force to crack ribs. The human doubled over, gasping in pain. But Deho's simple, crude punch had found its target too. It wasn't pretty or perfect, but it didn't need to be. It had 40,000 years of human stubbornness behind it. Velthor staggered backward, his eyes wide with shock. For a moment, both fighters swayed on their feet. Then the commander of the Zenithian Empire, the apex of galactic evolution, the being who had never lost a battle in 300 years of life, fell to his knees. I cannot continue, he whispered. The Ariana remained silent for several heartbeats. Then the Arbiter's voice echoed through the space. Winner of Phase 3, Cadet Kong Deho. Final result, human victory, 2 phases to 1. The explosion of sound that followed could be heard on every level of the academy. Humans cheered with voices hoarse from shouting. Other species sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Deho walked over to where Velthor knelt. The Zenithian looked up at him with eyes full of confusion and something that might have been fear. I was perfect, Velthor said quietly. How did perfection lose to primitive? Deho knelt beside him. You weren't primitive, you were evolved for different conditions. On your world, perfection works. On mine, it would have died in the first winter. So what defeats perfection? Nothing defeats it, Deho said, helping the Zenithian to his feet. But sometimes, perfection isn't enough. Sometimes you need something that can break and heal, fall and rise, fail and try again. And that is what humans are. That's what Earth made us. As medical teams helped both fighters from the arena, Dr. Morden turned to Prime Scholar Vextun. I believe we owe the humans an apology. The ancient Zenithian nodded slowly. More than an apology, we owe them our respect. And perhaps, we owe them our fear. Fear, Dr. Morden, we have just witnessed the defeat of everything our civilization holds sacred. If a single untrained human can defeat our greatest warrior, what happens when millions of them reach the stars? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Within days of the challenge, every major species in the galaxy sent diplomatic missions to Earth. The humans were no longer seen as primitive survivors from a dangerous world. They were recognized as something far more significant. The graduates of evolution's harshest school. Military alliances shifted overnight. The Galactic Defense Council didn't just offer humans membership, they begged for it. Species that had dismissed humanity as crude and young now lined up to request training partnerships with Earth's military. The Zenithian Empire entered a period of philosophical crisis. Their entire identity had been built on being masterpiece. How could they maintain that belief when a primitive had proven them wrong? Some Zenithians, led by Kethva, began studying human culture and philosophy. They wanted to understand how a species could be strong without being perfect. Others, following Commander Veltha, retreated into isolation. They refused to accept that their perfection had failed them. Deho graduated from the academy with the highest honors in its history. He was offered command positions in every major fleet, but he turned them all down. Why? Admiral Yoon asked him. You could have any position in the galaxy now. Because this was never about me, Deho replied. It was about proving that humans belong among the stars. Now that's done. So what will you do? Go home? Become an instructor, train the next generation of humans who will venture into space. He smiled. Earth has 4 billion years of lessons to teach. It's time the galaxy started learning them. Years later, when new species made first contact with galactic civilization, they asked about the most dangerous military forces in known space. The answer they received had become legend. Avoid conflict with Deathworld species, especially humans. They are not the strongest, fastest, or smartest beings in the galaxy. They are something far more dangerous. They are the species that refuses to stay defeated. On Earth, in a small training facility outside Seoul, an older Deho taught young humans preparing for the academy. On the wall of his classroom hung a simple sign: getting back up is more important than never falling down. And in the depths of space, human ships carried that lesson to the stars, proving every day that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from perfection, but from the simple refusal to quit. The apex of evolution had fallen, but something better had taken its place, the endless determination of a species that had learned to thrive in hell itself. The galaxy would never be the same.